Okay, well, I'll start with the introductions. I'm Beth Hansen.
Okay, I'm Heather Farnsworth.
I'm Riley Ferrens.
I'm Susan Lufau.
And I'm Fallon Guillen.
Man, y'all, I can't pronounce your last names. I apologize. So, I was trying to tell my husband who was going to be in our meeting. I'm like, well, these are their first names. Okay, so I'm going to be the little mediator person. And Susan, you're going to summary, you said, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. We'll talk about advocate number 1 first. So against same-sex marriage. What principles of effective speaking did you see in his speech? And I think this one is. It doesn't actually say his name.
I think it did by the video.
Can I start?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
All right. So I thought, if I'm not mistaken, if this is the first one, it was all about religious stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I mean, it did. I guess to me, it's okay, but it was too much. Still, there was no really any data out there, any research or anything that the world will accept. It was just basically just beliefs and religion and what God believes to be the right thing. So I didn't think that it was appropriate or strong enough to persuade someone. As a matter of fact, somebody would take it like, oh my gosh, again, why did this guy sit down, kind of thing. So to be honest. And he wasn't too sure about it either. The way that he said it, it was like if he was reading something instead of he wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't like exactly. No. So that's my opinion.
It's a good one. Okay. Does anyone else want to share?
Go ahead, Riley.
Okay, so you asked what he did well, and I'm totally with Fallon. I was thinking this. I was like, it's just too much. But for me, I thought at least. Okay, did you notice the people in the background walking away,
My point exactly.
Yeah, I was like, even there. I honestly had a hard time making it through the whole video because he was boring. But something that I thought he did well, I guess, was that he was prepared, at least on a scriptural standpoint, sort of. Like, he knew his religious stuff, even though that wasn't what they were obviously looking for because of the eye rolling and walking away.
Yes.
Yeah. You could really see how he was missing that emotional connection that they keep telling us we need to have. Because it's just kind of I'm here to tell you, you need to repent. There's just nobody wants to listen to that. And then the other guy was so much easier to connect to because he used those things like the story and all of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like he was a preacher, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounded like he was a preacher.
Okay, we're going to go to number 2 because it kind of goes with what we've been talking about. Actually, we're going to read the next 3 because we just answered them. Okay, so the next thing that was on there is what was the basis and or the premise for his stance. Then it was, if you were on the fence when it comes to same-sex marriage, how would you feel after listening to his speech? And third, what was less effective about his speech? So we just talked about how it was very rehearsed. It was very religious. Why, that's not a bad thing. I don't think that was the approach that was going to win people over. But what would your guys' I mean, we talked about the people rolling their eyes and walking away like, oh, another one of these kids. But what would you have gone with, yay for same-sex marriage or nay for same-sex marriage after this speech?
If I didn't have any other background in it or any other opinion before this, I probably would say yay, just because, I don't know, it wasn't persuasive. But then I have my own beliefs, so.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you were super religious, you might go with him.
Yeah, he seemed really fanatical and out there on the the far end. So if I didn't have any opinions coming into it, I probably would have been turned off by him.
But even then, I think that being religious, it still doesn't cut it quite, because it was, I guess you would have to try to reach out to every single, be more general, even though it's religious. I would have assumed that he would, try to touch at least a broader audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he was very like, this is where I'm at. Did anybody read those other articles that the teacher sent us?
Not yet.
Okay, one of them, who said Someone said
Well, the writing one by Matt Walsh, I read.
Okay, yes. I read the other one.
The Dennis Prager one?
No, I read the Matt Walsh one too.
Oh, yeah, I love Matt Walsh.
I didn't even see the other two until I just got on there.
Read that the Matt Walsh
really
one.
Good, yeah.
I did too, and that was like when I just compared this 20-year-old kid's speech to the speech that's on the Matt Walsh blog. I was like, oh, see, like if I could have heard Matt Walsh's blog before I'd heard this one, I'd been like, yeah, because he talks about, there's one part where he's like, okay, look, like, this is what Christianity is. This is what this is. This is what this is. I'm not saying it to be rude. I'm not saying it fueled out of hatred. Like, this is what we believe, and this is what the Bible says. Like, and it was totally opposite. I felt like in one, pardon the scripture, I don't know how to say it, but one, I felt like I was being told you're going to hell, and the other one, I thought I was being told this is what we believe, so this is why we stand up for what we believe.
Right.
I thought they were just complete opposites in articles. Okay, let's go to advocate number 2, if anybody, is that okay?
Can I start again?
Yes.
Even though I don't agree with it, but he was really good at being persuasive, because it was about him. He was in that situation. And I love the fact that he was like, if I were your son, you would be very proud of me, kind of thing. And I was like, that was like completely going for it, saying like, there's nothing wrong with it. I had the two moms, right?
Yeah.
And they're great. They have taught me this and this. So he was really, really good. Like I said, it doesn't change my beliefs, but he was very persuasive and very confident on what he had become, and to try to have that same thing for everybody else.
Yeah. He was very eloquent with what he said. Like, we definitely saw the parts, like the story of you, or the story of him, the story of us, the story of like what you're going to do. And so I feel like that, at the end you're just like, yeah, no, wait, no.
You're so right.
I agree, but no. Like, you seem like a great guy, but no. So anyway, I had a moment where I was like, I just feel for you, because you just...
He had no choice. There you go.
I particularly liked how he brought up accomplishments that everybody in the room would agree with, like the Eagle Scout and the high test scores and things like that. So he just definitely brought everybody in at that point.
Yeah, that really impressed me too. The fact that he's accomplished things where I'm like, yeah. I barely passed my ACT. Okay, not really. I did okay, but I'm definitely like the average sector where my husband is at, like, yeah, I got a 32, whatever.
And this is why you're my husband.
Yes, I know. That's why I married you. We have to balance out, okay? But that was something I was really impressed with, that he thought of bringing in. I mean, he went from a religious standpoint to a total, like, worldly standpoint with wanting to own your own business to be self-successful. I was with you, right? I was like, yeah, you go, except for you're going the wrong way. Like, okay.
He transitioned very well, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I think we kind of decided, if we were on the fence, he would have been the one that persuaded us to go to his side versus
yes.
Advocate number 1. And then what was less effective about his speech, and what was the basis or premise for his stance? I think we kind of hit that one when we were talking about how he hit all the different angles. Like, he really made a point that it affected everyone.
So, but he didn't use any data. There was no studies. There wasn't anything that he said, like, out of all the, he didn't use anyone but himself. It was complete conjecture. He could be a complete anomaly, the only gay child of gay parents who has ever been successful.
And I believed him.
And I have no idea.
No data, no proof, no nothing.
He's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That's so funny. Yeah, I agree. And I kind of wonder, like, the pretense for this speech, was it to go in and just be like, look, this is me. I survived. I'm not screwed up. And I'm okay, you know? Or was it supposed to be like, show me? Like, do they want to see the facts, or did they just want to see the person and how the person came out? That's something I would have been interested.
Yeah.
Which he did great at being narrative about it,
Yes.
which is the whole point of what really works. When you actually bring other people to come into your area and see what you're meaning or what you're saying, what you're feeling, makes a huge difference. Imagine more if he would have presented more evidence or actual data, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
I just felt like his big thing was you feel empathy for him. You're like, wow, this kid wants to be accepted. And so you're like, yeah, he should be accepted, and like, but that's not the real issue. It's just kind of, that's what was really strong for him, is
Yeah.
that empathy.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Matt Walsh, because I thought his was sweet.
Matt Walsh is always great.
I've never heard of this kid before.
So follow him on Facebook, because everything he writes is brilliant. Except the only thing is, Matt Walsh is super, super, super one-sided. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't ever address the other side at all in any issue. I mean, he does, but he just, I feel like it's ad hominem. He just kind of attacks them, like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're stupid. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes, but his points are always super solid. Especially in this article, you're like, yeah, no, exactly. That's what I want to say, except I don't know how. I don't have the word. You have the word.
Yeah.
So.
Which it brings, you know, that article, no, not that article, the video of that lady that was teaching, was it Kelly? No.
Marcia Barlow? Whatever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where she was saying, you know, there is so much that our generation wants to say, we just don't know how.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked that.
Because it was so true. Most of us don't do anything about it, and if somebody would have come and asked, you know, we would want to be involved. We would want to do things, but we just don't know how to come across and say it correctly to persuade others.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think part of our problem is that we don't know how to hone in our passion. Like, we feel one way and we, like, vomit on everybody what we believe. Like, we don't take the time to learn and to research and to kind of just shut your mouth and process things before we're just like, oh, no, you didn't. Like, we just kind of freak out too fast. And I think that's something, especially, I'm not very good at it. I know if I'm passionate about something, I'm like, hold on, let me tell you what's up. But, like, my little sister in the next generation, like, this is so random, but there was one time when I was texting my sister, I was like, can you just call me? And she's like, nobody calls people anymore, Beth. We don't have conversations on the phone. I was like, like, we're losing the art of conversation, which I think in turn is it's really bad for society, because we don't know how to communicate what we're trying to say. We don't know the words. Our vocabulary is,
Right.
I don't know the number, but I was saying something about how, like, 50 years ago, our vocabularies have shrunk since then because we use LOL, which isn't even a word. You know, like, we just, it's probably a Facebook thing. I know.
BTW, by the way.
No, I get really embarrassed when my dad sends me something over text, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Come on. Okay, sorry. Back to Mr. Walsh.
Well,
Okay.
Beth, I think what you were talking about is how you have to, if you can intertwine the data along with the emotional story, that's how you get people. And I think that Matt Walsh did that amazingly well.
Yeah, because people can relate to you, and the fact of bringing, not only saying this is my story, but this, you know, this could be you, this is you, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, and even though, like Riley said, he is very one-sided. He was very good about being one-sided.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the questions really quick. What was the basis or the premise of his stance? Did we cover that one? So like, hi, baby.
The basis of his
Of Matt Walsh's? Or
Yes, of Matt Walsh's.
I think it's that, just kind of like the title, like marriage thing, just kind of that has a purpose in society beyond.
What was that, Riley?
I
was that Heather?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
They should be violent.
Sorry, my son's trying. We're weaning him off of a bottle, and it is rough. So my husband's trying to put him to bed for me. So, okay.
Heather, were you saying something?
Oh yeah, I was just saying like the basic lines. I don't know. I guess it seems like kind of two, but just kind of that marriage is a important function in society that we stand for beyond individual love. I don't know. That's what it seems to me.
And he kind of talked about, too, how the reason for marriage was, like, the only way you can create children, the only way is a man and a woman. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other way. And that is the reason that marital unions happen in the first place, is because a man and a woman are needed to create a family.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if gay marriage happens, two men are not ever going to be able to create a family. Or two women. They can ever have that procreative power. There's no way. They can adopt or they can do in vitro, but they still need
but then again, like you said, you need. I mean, what if at one point everybody becomes, gay, and it's like, when and how,
And we all
how
die.
is it gonna happen?
We all die.
If we all change ways, like, that's it.
You'll be like, excuse me, can I borrow your eggs? Oh, can I have some of your sperm?
I dried up. Sorry. Y'all are on your own.
It's like, it doesn't make sense. And he proves the point. It's true.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were on the fence after reading Matt Walsh's, which way would you go?
towards Matt Walsh.
Me too.
Yeah.
Are we all sweet? Okay, and then what was less effective? We talked about how he was one-sided. I think that his passion is something that makes him very assertive, which is effective. But I can definitely see how for other people they would have been like, "Boy, get your bahookie off the stage! Like, get out of town." So I think that can go both ways.
Kind of abrasive.
Yeah.
Yes.
He didn't sugarcoat things.
But then again, look at talking about that second advocate. Even if we do not believe that, being persuasive and good at it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
And even me, that I don't believe that, I never thought of saying, "Listen, move out of the way." No, I kind of wanted to hear his story. I kind of wanted to see where he was coming from.
Yeah.
So Matt Walsh doesn't use a narrative. He never uses. He doesn't say like, "This is what happened to me and this is beautiful," and he doesn't like flower it up. He's very straightforward, like Heather said. He doesn't sugarcoat. He's very eloquent, but in a different way. I think if he used a narrative, more people would be willing to listen. Because he is so abrasive, it turns off anyone who's on the fence or who's leaning towards gay marriage. If they read that, they would stop reading within the first
like, no, yeah, you're right.
They'd be like, no.
Yeah, I think people would kind of feel bullied by his perspective. Like, if they didn't believe it, they were in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of if I was on the fence about it, because I'm in agreement with him, I'm like, well, bam! But if I was on the fence, I would be a little nervous that people would be turned off by how, like, now this is this, and go jump off a cliff if you don't agree with me. Kind of a thing.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay. Keep going.
So would you say, I was wondering about like the narrative thing, would you say he kind of had a narrative because he was sharing like, it wasn't really a story, but it was kind of like, oh, this is how I felt, and I've been like struggling with this, and like, is that a narrative? I don't know. Or does it have to be like, my family grew up this way, or I know this person that grew up with gay parents, or something like that? Like a story.
I think he personalizes it by talking about his feelings. I don't know if I would consider it. I don't know. I guess I always just thought of a narrative being like someone's experience versus just, well, this is what I think.
Right.
Yeah, me too. I was just kind of wondering, like, if what he said would qualify or not. But
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Okay. What questions do we still have for each other? Are there other thoughts that you want to share? Anybody who read the other two? Did anybody read the magazine Culture, Law, and Religious Liberty? Or the two that she posted in her, that Sister Colby posted in her comment?
I didn't read them yet.
Okay.
No, I'm planning on it. I just haven't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the one that says why a good person can vote against same-sex marriage. There's a couple of good points in there. Just two questions that it brought up, and this is just more food for thought. It's not like we have to answer them if we don't want to, but it said, okay, it's 3 lines. I'm going to read it. It says, the primary explanation is this. Proponents and opponents are asked 2 different questions. Proponents of same-sex marriage ask, is keeping the definition of marriage as man and women fair to gays? Opponents of same-sex marriage ask, is same-sex marriage good for society? And so it just goes on to say how neither side really answered the question, but I thought that helped kind of put it in a really good perspective because nobody's asked the same question. Nobody ever has to answer because for us it is like, look, this is a breakdown of society as a whole. We're not saying like we don't want your rights to be appreciated. It's just saying like for us it's a breakdown of society, and for them it's like, hey, I'm a person too, y'all. Like, figure it out, you know. So I thought that one had a lot of really good points in it.
Which
and it
one
was just kind of, it's the why a good person can vote against same-sex marriage. And it's got a couple of just really good parts, but I just really liked that it pointed out that like nobody really answers the questions as a whole because it's such a broad issue. Like,
Yeah.
nobody answers them.
I do have a question if you'll. So if you were a legislator and you were somehow by, like, let's say you were the king. You are the king of the United States or Ireland or wherever. And your job is to defend the family. So you have these beliefs, but you still don't want to make the people who struggle with homosexuality second-class citizens. What would you legislate? What would you do?
Anyone?
Are you saying it from our religious perspective or just in general?
If you feel like just any way that you think that would make, like, for example, so I think, you know, civil marriage was kind of the compromise, or not civil marriage, civil union was kind of the compromise. Like, marriage can be a church thing, and we can take it out of government completely, and you guys can have all the tax benefits, or there should be no tax benefits for marriage, which, I mean, we already got our money for getting married, so. But what I'm thinking is, like, what would you do? Like, how do you make people feel like they aren't second-class citizens because they struggle without doing things that are harming society, you know, without giving them privileges that aren't necessarily going to be good for anyone?
So I was in my institute class. One of the things that we're talking right now, it's talking about marriage and talking about gender and talking about, and there was a talk by, I'm not quite sure if it was Eller Oaks or Eller Holland. I don't remember which one it was. But again, didn't we talk about this last week saying, oh, there was this talk. Sorry, by the way. But I can look it up.
Geez, Riley.
I know it's one of those two. At least
Wow,
I know
yeah.
one of those two. But he's talking about the fact of when it comes to things like that, unfortunately, we cannot be, you can be loving towards the person, but you cannot be in the gray side. It has to be, you have to be in one stand, you know? And he was saying it doesn't matter, you know, but you have to be strong in what you believe, even if you're saying it out there to society. Because that's why many times, we're not saying anything, just like you said, because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, or we don't want to. But it is, breaking down family, society. It's like, and we just let it go a little bit by little bit by little bit. At the end, it's going to be like that camel that, under the storm of the sand is completely in, and there's nothing we can do, So I'm going to look it up, ladies, I promise.
I believe you.
All right, sounds good.
Heather, Susan, what do you guys think?
I don't know. That's a really hard. That's something I would have to think
Sorry, I
about.
have to go out for a second. I'll be right back.
It's a really complicated issue, just because you just think about other sexual sins that aren't okay in society, but for some reason this one, just the way it is, I don't know, like we people having adultery and like incest and things like that aren't looked well upon. If I were a government leader, I don't know. I'm just confused.
What a cutie. I think that it's the only thing really that our church leaders have asked us to vote specifically a certain way about, and I think that it's something that in the eyes of the Lord we need to stand up for. And if I was the one in charge, I'd have to make it a law that marriage was between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
I would just do that and let the consequences fall where they were.
Yeah, I think, and Susan, that's totally what I was thinking about, because as soon as Riley asked that question, I was like, okay, I would have to decide if I was going to fear man or if I was going to fear God. And in my experience, I should fear God.
Yeah.
Like, I really need to do what God asks, because the consequences of that, I realized, to the world, they might be okay consequences, but to me, in an eternal standpoint, they're far greater than I could, that I'm willing to take, And so I think that
Sorry. It's okay.
It's okay. I think that I agree with you, Susan. Like, you really do have to, you would make the law. Because the church says be active, but there are, like you said, they have asked us to specifically vote a certain way. And that's something where, for me, if it's coming from every directive, that's coming from God to bishops. Like, that's important. That's a big deal. So.
Yeah. I just think, too, they used to put homosexual people in asylums and treat them as if they were mentally insane. And I don't know if that's the way to do it either, but definitely there's something wrong. There's obviously the biological drives are mixed up, and I feel like we should still treat it as if it was a psychiatric issue. However, that is no longer politically correct, and so it would be interesting if we were politicians in their shoes, how we would want to treat people, because I have a lot of gay friends, and it's unfortunate that I have to, I even have my sister-in-law is a lesbian, and they're raising 2 children that they had artificially, and it's just, I'm like, what would we do, Wesley? For my husband, I'm like, what would we do if they invited us to their wedding? Would we not go because they're gay, or would we go because they're our family? It's just, there's so many nuances and interesting ways to look at this, because I feel like I'm kind of close in so many ways to this discussion, even though I completely agree and would all day make marriage and family the most important, because it is. It's just, what would happen to those families if you completely outlawed it?
Yeah, that's where my one holdup is like, okay, for the families who are, my sister has this really good friend who, it's 2 women, and they have 3 kids, they read the Bible every day, they have family night every week, they really live by the Mormon law, but it's 2 women married, and both of them are very interested in the gospel, but for them, they're not willing to destroy their family to be baptized. That's like their one thing. So I don't know. I would be like, for y'all who need it, here's the prophet. He knows the 12-step program. Call him. Like, here's the missionaries. I don't know. I'm grateful that I just have to stand up for me and my.
Which is again, I guess, why that new law that the church passed, you know, so that you don't have to divide the family, so that they don't have to. It is, which is hard, but again, at the same time, so that those children don't have to feel like they're divided or that they're, you know. Yeah, it's a difficult topic.
I think it takes faith too, because we have to remember it is an important law. It's a law of taxes, and there are real blessings that those people really do, and that they are meant to their lives. So it's like, I don't know, you just have to have faith and trust that that is what they need, but they don't know that they need it, you know.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a little sidestep too. I've been thinking a lot about this, because when I moved to Texas, all of a sudden it was a lot bigger issue than it was in Utah and in Boise, Idaho, like, and in Montana. Like, in the country lifestyle, you don't talk about this at all. And growing up, my parents, like, recognized that it was there, but we did not talk about it. And it still, like, stuns me. Yesterday I was at Walmart, and there was a gentleman who, he was visibly a gentleman, but he was dressed as a woman, and I really struggled with it. Like, I didn't want myself to look at him. I didn't want anything, and I realized that, yes, I was being judgmental, but I realized, like, I need to learn how to be protective by standing up what's right to my children versus being, like, duck and cover. You know, like, and so that's something that I don't know. Like, I think I would, again, I'm grateful I don't have to be a leader of a nation, because I would be a very bad one. But, like, there's so many situations that, like, I wasn't raised around talking about it. My parents, like I said, they recognized it was a problem, but we did not talk about it. And I had a hard time focusing on the lady at the checkout stand versus this gentleman who was not a gentleman. I don't know how to say that, and I don't, like, you know, like, it was just very awkward for me, and I felt bad because I was like, he could totally chew me out according to society for not wanting to look at him because I'm not embracing his whatever, you know, but I felt so bad, and there were, like, these 6, 3, and 4-year-old little girls playing around right there, and I was just like, what message are we teaching them? Like, it was just, Riley, do you have a boy or a girl?
It's a girl, sorry.
No, it keeps flashing, so I can't even focus for like 2 seconds. But
somewhere.
But I don't know. Like, I've been thinking about just how awkward it is for society to, like, have this, because you're always on the fence. Like, what can you say without going to jail because you're having freedom of speech and living your religious beliefs anymore? Like, what do you guys think? What's the line? Is there a line anymore? Like,
it depends what side you're on.
That's true.
Definitely a line.
And do you guys feel like the line, like, I mean, if you have a circle, do you think that it's half and half, or do you think it's like an 18th and 17/18? Like, for me, because I feel like, like I said, I don't feel like I could say anything or else I would go to jail. But, like, for someone else, like, I have a friend who he's very gay, and he has totally ripped me up one side and down the other because I said that I was grateful that my family was eternal, and I, like, cried over this because it was like, I can't even tell you what I believe without you, like, totally tearing me apart. And it was really hard. Like, it was to the point where, like, I cut off everything because I just couldn't live like that. I felt like, again, and this is how I feel in today's, like, society, I feel like I've become the oppressed in some things, which I think it's hard because it's like, you know, I guess, I don't know, I'm talking too much. That's how I feel.
I wonder though,
if you guys don't mind, because we're actually off track, very off track, which is a very passionate, no, I'm being honest, it's a very passionate topic and subject, but we're very off track of what we're.
I think we're done though, aren't we?
It's okay.
Yes, okay. Susan, how to summary, and then we can stop it live, and whoever wants to say and vent at me for talking too long can.
No. Just because if she hears that, the whole recording is going to be...
I hope she just listens to the first, 4 minutes,
and the last,
and then we're good.
And then the summary,
yes.
yeah.
Was that... No, it wasn't Heather. It was Riley. Riley, you want to say, just finish what you were going to say, and then we can... After
It's funny because I wonder if they're thinking now, about the oppressed, how you said we kind of are oppressed now. I wonder if they've felt like that the whole time, and just now they feel free and we feel oppressed. So I don't know. I think it's interesting because they used to feel so attacked, and now they probably feel the opposite, and now we feel so attacked. I wonder where the middle ground is, if it's ever going to be reached, where everyone just feels as if they
enough.
Yeah.
As if they
I
can
don't think
live
so.
and be okay.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think it's gonna get to that point. It's gonna get to the extremes.
It's gonna get to the second coming. That's what's gonna happen.
There you go.
Okay, Susan.
Okay. So, we talked about the two speeches, the two young men who gave their speeches, and the first one was very narrow. He appealed to a very, very narrow audience, was very religious in his talks, and sounded like a preacher, and didn't persuade anybody really. Everybody just kind of wanted to stop listening to him. The second one was much more articulate and appealed to a broader audience with his worldly accomplishments, and he would have persuaded all of us, even though he had no data to back up what he was talking about. He was only talking about his own personal experiences, but he was so articulate and appealed to such a broad audience that we all would have been persuaded had we been sitting on the fence before those speeches. Matt Walsh's article, we all thought that he was very effective. The way he brought his data together with his opinions, his articulation was very effective. His premise was that marriage is factual and functional and very important to society, and it's not just about love, and it's based, and he based his talk also on facts about the plan of salvation. Even though he was slightly abrasive and one-sided, he could use some softening up in the way that he talks. We still would have leaned toward his side. Then the other articles, Beth brought up some things, the other article about why a good person could vote against same-sex marriage, and that led to an entire discussion about how, if we were in charge of a country, what kind of laws would we come up with regarding same-sex marriages? And some of us didn't really know what we would do, and some of us were very strongly about putting laws together about forbidding same-sex marriage, because that is the Lord's stance, and that's what he's telling us to do today. We all agreed it would be extremely hard decision to make, and that the whole topic is extremely hard and heartbreaking, because we all have people that we're close to who are going through these issues, and it's hard to think about families being broken up over these issues, but each one of us has a testimony of marriage and the plan of salvation, and we all know what this is all about, but we all agree that it's very hard to watch loved ones go through this, and we all know that it's our responsibility to stand up for the things that we believe, but how do we do that in a loving way? And we also agreed that this is not going to be something that anybody's going to be able to come to middle ground on. These are very opposite sides of an argument that is basic to the plan of salvation, and nothing is going to get decided. It's only going to get worse, because it's going to get more heated with very opposing sides. It's going to happen that way until the Savior comes.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. That was a really great discussion.
Yeah, sorry I rampaged.
You always.
Okay. We don't need to say our names at the end.
You and I can stay on it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop the broadcast. We don't need to say our names again, right?
No.
Okay, perfect. Well, then I'm going to stop the broadcast, and we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we agree who's gonna do it next week? You wanna
Yeah.
stop it and then we'll